6 or 7 minutes will make or break not only their summer, but their rowing career, potentially get to a final at Henley. Really done something special in the sport. So which of these two boats can do that today? University of London on the Berkshire station, Oxford Brookes University A on the Buck station. See them there. They've had a good regatta so far, Oxford Brookes University. They'll be keen to continue that, but University of London were hugely impressive yesterday in their round heat.
Against Cambridge University, they took quite a bit of distance on them in the end. And here, coming out of the end of the island, looks like UL have managed to get themselves to half a length lead over the Oxford Brookes A crew. But it's early stage, still quite a long way to go. Who can transition now and really develop some boat speed for the next 6 minutes?
So a good smooth start. You'll see some really smooth starts from now on. Having had the dry runs off the Temple Island, it is tricky early in the week, isn't it? But now they've had the extra race practice, they should be more drilled in that.
Yeah, and also early morning, the pleasure cruises aren't out yet, so the water's quite calm and flat, so they have great racing conditions with no wind this morning. So we really can have a great row of both crews.
If you're watching internationally, it's 9:30 UK time this morning when we get the programme underway, which has been a lie-in by Henley Royal Regatta standards. We had an 8:30 start on Thursday, which was pretty early, and for rowing, it's not really a lie-in sort of sport, is it? I wonder what time these athletes would have had to get up, because as you say, they would have had a row this morning, they'd have had a breakfast or two, they need to get all their routines in place, their warm-ups done. Perhaps they were staying a little bit outside of Henley, so they've had to travel. What sort of time do you think they had to get up and be ready to go, Adrian?
It's something between 5 and half 5 this morning to be in town, do a 40-minute paddle, and then have some breakfast, like I said, and then get ready for racing. UL here, their rhythm at the moment seems to be moving them out to maybe 3/4 of a length on the Brookes crew. Both crews, to be honest, rowing really well, really efficiently. It's just going to come down to how much power they've had to use to get to this point, and actually a bit of toughness. Who's the toughest crew?
Yeah, a bit of mental grit today will be required. And being, where are we? We started on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. They're perhaps fourth time on the water competitively today. That's going to take its toll as well, isn't it? And it's who's recovered best, who's gone through the best recovery processes.
I think they've all done the training that should be fit enough to do it, but some of the price they pay is how hard some of the races were earlier in the week. If they've had a tough race, you're obviously going to feel that the next day more than if you've managed to cruise through the final. Like yesterday, for instance, University of London raced Cambridge and won by a length of 3/4, but I think it was a bit easier than that. They were further ahead in the middle of the course. And Brookes beat by 2.5 lengths. And that wasn't a very hard race. So I think both of these crews haven't had a tough race yesterday.
So Oxford Brookes University up against University of London. And just watching Oxford Brookes' boat, I mean, they've got teenagers in the boat. They're either in their very early 20s or teenagers still, and the same University of London bloke, they're all in their early 20s. Now, Adrian, it's a little bit of time back for you and I to cast our minds, but you do recover a lot better, don't you, when you're younger? For the athletes who are in their late 20s or early 30s, that makes a significant difference.
It certainly does. I mean, your body just doesn't absorb the training in the same way. These guys, they thrive on it, really, particularly in the last 4 or 5 weeks since all the university studying is finished. They've basically had a summer's, like an international training summer, where they've had no other stimulus. I mean, maybe the odd person's been a medic or something, but most people have been able to recover really well and get ready for this regatta. And both crews here rowing at a really high standard. It's a student event, so it's Cox 4, so you've got somebody steering, sitting in the back of the boat. And here Brookes seems to be doing a bit of a charge here at the moment, actually. Maybe gaining a little bit, coming up to about, looks like, in fact, the marker, the 3/4 mile post is saying the crews are now level.
Yeah, which is fabulous. It's a really good first races in the Prince Albert. University of London, right-hand side of your picture, perhaps a fraction ahead against Oxford Brookes University A, but there's nothing in it at all.
It really isn't. Brookes were almost 3/4 of a length down, and now they really are. Looks like they're charging through UL actually at the moment. They've obviously put a bit of an effort in. UL need to make a decision now. Are they going to be able to do something now to try and stop Oxford Brookes getting ahead of them any further?
Now, Oxford Brookes, you're absolutely right. They've surged past here, haven't they? Cat and mouse. It's going to be a good race. And the mental side of the game is going to come into play here.
Yeah, this is where you have the courage. There's no point waiting to the last 10 strokes to try and gain. You need to decide quite early on that if you really want to win this race, you need to put everything into it now to change the momentum of the race. And it looks like UL may have done that. They seem to be coming back on terms with Brookes after their effort.
We talked about the impact of the previous rounds and the fact they've been rowing for the previous 3 days, and they get to today and they're not expending too much energy. But the other part is that we can expect races to be much tighter today. Semi-finals and then into finals. The margins of victory and defeat inevitably will be tighter than we've seen earlier in the week. And here's a great example.
There's all the knocking all the other crews out during the races just converges all the quality of the crews together. And you're right, there's going to be very little margin between most of these races today. And here,
University of London coming back again.
Yeah, they're doing a great job getting back on terms, really having to fight hard. It's going to see who's got the mettle for the last 2 minutes.
So in front of the enclosures now, University of London boat, Isaac Workman in the bow seat. You've got Henry Miles, Tom Worthington and Tom Cross in the stroke seat. And Cox, Jasper, Cooper looking ahead. That's the University of London boat that I've just talked you through. And they need to keep their technique. They're just starting to wobble a little bit. The tiredness kicking in, Adrian.
Yeah, but there seems to be moving through Brookes, to be honest. There was a bit of a shout there from the bowman. Isaac Workman, obviously telling the crew what they need to get done. And it's made an impact. They managed to get through. Like you said, the grimacing, even the Brookes crew now really having to haul on it and try and keep on it, the acceleration.
Matt Hayward in the stroke seat there, definitely grimacing. Rory Crookshank's got his work cut out. The Cox, because University of London have taken control of the race. In front of stewards we go in the Prince Albert. We've got semi-final day coming to the boil here in the very first race. University of London stretching ahead to half a length clear, and Oxford Brookes University, they could well be beaten unless they can produce something spectacular in the last dozen strokes or so. University of London now moving clear, a length clear. Oxford Brookes University have found the pace a little bit too hot to handle in that last 300 or 400 metres, and here come University of London over the line to win the opening semi-final on Saturday of Henley Royal Regatta. In the end, the margin of victory, well, that looks far more comfortable than it really was. It looked like a comfortable margin of victory, but that really was a tight race. Great performance, and look at these celebrations going there. Fabulous semi-final, Adrian.
Oh, and amazing that the Brookes managed to row their way through, and then UL just held their nerves and had something more just to come through. And it looks like the effort in the middle just took it out of Brookes. They didn't have anything left at the end.
And you can see what it means to those rowers.